Well, I got Monty Buntin in here, and he's already done some podcasts, a real good one with the Converse Cowboy. So if you guys want to hear a little bit more about his full story, go back and check those out, support those other programs. The Rogue was the other one that you'd been on?
The Rogue, and I'm trying to think of the other one. Grit Branded was one of them, but yeah, those are the kind of most recent ones.
Absolutely. So those will have a little bit more full background information on him, a little bit more of his earlier story, where we will kind of focus in on that here, but we're just going to kind of jump right into this. And some of the first stuff that I really took away from your Converse Cowboy episode was when you got to talking about the Science Being Rich and all those Wallace D. Wattles books. And as I've probably listened to that podcast all the way through 6 or 7 times now.
That's awesome.
And I think I walk away with a little bit of a different perspective and something new every time out of it.
That's awesome. Glad to hear that.
And your mental game, I mean, is undeniable. Everybody says it about you. So let me just take a step back and explain a little bit more about what the goal of this podcast is for. So when you're just a ranch cowboy, which is my background, it's real easy to just stick your head down, enjoy the pretty views, get drunk, blow your money. If you don't own the cows, you reach your peak. If you have any ambition, you reach the ceiling of as far as you're going to go very fast. And it causes a cycle of build up here a couple of years or less, go to the next place. And if you can maintain that life and be around the livestock and the horses, where do you go from there? And a lot of guys are just, I've never knew anything about any performance horse industry until a brief stint with a guy named Cody McNanny. And then back to cowboying and the same cycle. And I had my son, and it made me start looking for more. And I didn't want to go back to a town job. I've been a firefighter. I worked on the railroad. I've run heavy equipment. I have things I could go back to and make a living, but it wasn't the life that I wanted to live for me. And so I needed to find a way to where I could satisfy myself and provide for my family. And you're not going to be a millionaire doing this, but you can be comfortable and still enjoy the principles that cowboy lifestyle gives you. And it wasn't until I had my son that I started looking for options and trying to mature. I came out of probably close to 10 years of being a blackout drunk the better half of the week. And when my son was born, I felt like I was a 15-year-old kid in a 25, 6-year-old's body. And so I've had a lot of ground to gain. And so that's why when I go back and I listen to your podcast and other people and I try and take these lessons, I'd really take them to heart. And some of the things in your story are not too far off from mine as far as our childhoods and having different types of struggles. And so yours was especially easy to relate to. So going back to some of these questions, they really kind of just tie back into having to make yourself do it and getting started, getting the ball rolling. So, like a good example is you talked about a team roping clinic you went to, and at the end you had the jackpot roping, and you just wanted to win. You went in there,
catch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that is kind of like breaking down those steps and finding one thing to focus on and not getting lost in the end result.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest slowdown, I guess, in people's process when they're reaching to achieve something is most people can really confuse wanting something for trying hard to get it. And I mean, I think that a lot of people want something real bad, but they don't know how to try. And I think trying is a constant thought and action working in synchronization towards one goal. And a lot of times people will have a lot of action working towards a goal, but their thought pattern doesn't match the action. Or they'll have a great thought pattern and they'll think about all the things they do if they had what they wanted. And they'll think about, they'll hold that in their mind, but there's no action going. And what I mean by that, you have to have in your mind what you want in order to even move towards it. But, I'm trying to make sure I explain this right. this is kind of a little crazier out there or whatever, but I think a real superpower is to imagine other people that you know and respect talking about you. And imagine them talking about you in the way that you want to be. So like let's say we leave this interview and you just imagine me saying, man, that guy is an outstanding interviewer. I mean, and he's going somewhere with this. I mean, it's outstanding. So you just imagine that. That's what I call the invisible truth. So that's what you want to be. That's what your heart desires. That's what you're holding in your mind. That's what you want. Now, without then the next time you podcast pretending to be that person I'm talking about, without applying yourself in that way, without in the meantime, researching good questions to ask on a podcast, how to be a great interviewer. So you've already held in your mind, you got the world for you in your mind and what you want, but without taking action to sort of get out there in life and apply yourself that way, neither one of them works. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of, I think there's a big confusion in trying and wanting something real bad, and everybody wants it. But that to me is that's what slows everybody down.
Mm-hmm. And you've said something along the lines of you're capable until proven otherwise. Mm-hmm. And that if you caught the inclination that you could do something, whether anyone said you could or couldn't, the same with when you were young wanting to be a horse trainer, and there were some people in your life that advised against it, but your mother and I believe your grandmother really supported you behind that, and you capitalized on that energy. You focused on the people that had your vision for you and with you. And when you start trying to break this down and you're talking about taking a step and focusing on that step and convincing yourself and the world around you that you are what you want to be, when you have one step, how do you connect the steps? Do you have some sort of a framework when you have a goal or a vision for something you want to accomplish at any point in your life? You can go back in time, something you're working towards now. Mm-hmm. How do you connect those individual thoughts together?
Right now, obviously, I have some areas in my life I want to improve and change, and I think that's a personality that you are constantly developing, right? And I think we're talking more about today. I know some things I want. I know I'm going to get them. And so what I do is, like I say, I imagine myself the way I want to be. It wasn't just a number of years ago that I imagined myself as that person with a strong mental game, because I had a real weak one. And now the last few podcasts I've done, everybody says, well, you're known as somebody with real... Well, it's not because I changed anybody around me. It's because I decided to start having that self-image, having that self-talk, and having I'd hold that in my mind. I'd use that as a thought to combat the opposite, what naturally comes to your mind, which is usually the negatives. Whatever is the opposite of what you want, it's easy to see. That's the visible reality. The invisible is harder to see. But when I did that, when I start thinking of myself that way, then I start to apply myself that way. I start to act like that. It's an act at first. It's a total act. But the people around me didn't change and decide I had it. Ultimately, I start to carry that sort of energy with me, and then ultimately you become that way. And it's no different than anything in life. I think that when you know what you want, if you really want it, then it's not that hard to hold in your mind, not that hard to remember, not that hard to recognize when you're doing the opposite. The real challenge, I guess, is when you fall off of what you're doing. Maybe you lose your temper, maybe whatever, if we're talking about my situation, to get right back in the game. Get right back in the game. Make sure that you get that image back in your mind, and then continue to act like that person that you want. And then over time, I read it somewhere, it says your subconscious doesn't filter, it studies patterns and creates. Your mind, it doesn't care what you're developing in your life. If you want to sit around, play poor me all the time, and talk about why your podcast didn't work out, talk about why this didn't work out, that didn't work out, well, you're getting better at that. You're going to get better at it. You're going to get better at rationalizing that, because that's the image you're holding in your mind. That's how you're applying yourself. It's a choice, I think. That's a choice.
So would you kind of consider that like that entire kind of idea of external resistance, of like, assuming that something's working against you. Like exactly what you're just talking about. If you constantly are recognizing the struggles, you're going to run into more struggles because it's what you're subconsciously looking for. You're not looking for or willing to accept that success.
You'll get better at it. You'll get better at dealing with them. You'll attract them. The only real proof for anybody is to actually apply yourself in the way that I'm talking about. It's everything I've learned and studied, and I'm just so confident anymore about how to. I know things right now in my life that aren't good, and I know why. You know what I mean? I know, and I realize that you have to purposefully execute your life in order to accomplish what you want. If you don't, life happens to you. If you purposefully execute your life, meaning decide what you want, have enough mental work ethic to consider it as often as you can, make it a pattern in your mind, and then apply yourself as the person you want to be. If you want to be a lawyer, and you're not even close to being a lawyer, you don't even have an education, well, then you should imagine yourself, what you'd be like as a lawyer, what people would say about you as a lawyer, and then dress like a lawyer, and then study about being a lawyer, and then talk like a lawyer. Study lawyers. What do they all do? Be that. See what I'm saying? So it's that takes purposeful thought and action. That's really trying. That's what trying is. And there's so many people that think they're trying. They're not trying. They're not trying at all. And I know part of it's not their fault, but they're not even close. They might get up early. Sometimes they don't. But when they have time to try, they don't. But they'll tell you what they want a lot, you know. So to me, it takes that purposeful thought, like I said, thought and action working together in synchronization towards one thing. That's trying. And I think some people don't realize that. They don't put them together. Hopefully I'm answering your question.
No, and part of, like, I did this on purpose is because as I've gone back and re-listened to your other podcasts, and I've probably listened to The Science of Getting Rich all the way through 20 times in the last 3 or 4 months. And as well, I just finished The Science of Being Great for the second time.
That's awesome.
And like every morning.
Those are incredible books, and they were written in the 1800s, I think. It's really remarkable, some of the predictions it makes. And
absolutely.
It's pretty remarkable.
Well, and like the first couple of times I listened to him, because there's this big phrase in The Science of in a certain way. And don't question it. Don't try and find your way around it. Just believe it. And for me, my background, like I used to be very gullible, I guess, for lack of a better word. And if someone said it, it was the truth, it was gospel. And so that, particularly as I've kind of come out of my shell, to just blindly accept something is hard, because now I need the proof for why your answer is better than the one I already have. And I probably had to listen to it 3 times before it started to make sense.
Me too. There was just enough in it that it intrigued me. But I had to do the same thing. I've listened to that thing hundreds of times. And then what I've done over the years is just created sort of I shouldn't say my own perception of it, but I've tried to understand it in modern language, modern times, So basically, when that book says over and over and over, you got to do things in a certain way, what it's saying is what I'm trying to explain there, which is you need to know what you want. Imagine yourself as if you already are that person that you want, and then go out that door in the morning and apply yourself and act like that person to the best you can. And you won't start out good. If I wanted to be a horse trainer that had sponsors and had, made a nice trailer and a nice truck, all I could do is go clean the truck I had, make it as nice as I could, continue to apply myself and act like that the best I could. Over time, it's just really amazing. And I think that the hardest part is, and I look back and think of how much faster I could have achieved everything. Not that I'm greedy or ungrateful, because I've come a long ways in a short time, I think. But the hardest part is when you fail, when you go backwards, when you spend that time in your mind wasting it. It's a complete waste of time. And you said a minute ago, like, sometimes it's hard to just accept a theory and go with it. Well, I read somewhere it said if you think it's risky, wait till you get the bill for not risking it. What do you have to lose?
Mm-hmm.
You think, investing in that house or going to achieve your dreams like what you're trying to do and is risky, right? It's risky. You're exposing yourself to embarrassment and different things, doing the podcast, right? Well, let's say you don't do it. We'll be back cowboying here in a couple of years. Wait till you get the bill for not risking
Absolutely.
it.
That's something that I hit myself for, and kind of before we started this, I was talking about I wasn't mature enough to have come down here and done this. I was probably 21, 22 the first time I was around any type of performance horse, and I caught a bug for it bad, and I really stepped up my horsemanship just when I went back cowboying. I almost, you talk about if you didn't do it, I was already broke. I was already going nowhere, doing nothing, just being day trash.
Mm-hmm.
If I'd have come down here before and it didn't work out, I'd have gotten a little experience, a little more exposure, and gone back. Things happen the way they do for a reason. I have a beautiful wife, a beautiful son, and I have the motivation to make it mean something. As you break through that first layer of resistance, for me, it was myself and the lack of confidence. I didn't think I was good enough or deserved to come down and really try these things. And Gracie said, let's go, let's do it, gave me the support and I guess the permission to do it. And I haven't quite run into the next wall of resistance yet, but I'm sure that it doesn't just go away forever. So from your initial, like when you were young, that first amount of resistance, your household split up. Some people are saying it's not ever going to happen. Some people are saying it were. As you finally started to gain some traction and you got to work for your first trainer and were starting to recognize some opportunity there, what was the next layer of resistance that you ran into?
Oh, shit. Everything was hard. Everything. Until I really wished I knew then a lot of what I know now. I didn't trust it. I still applied myself and executed my life, but man, did I waste a lot of time worrying and everything. Get enough horses in training, finally. There was a lot of resistance getting that done. They all suck though. They're not good enough. So I look average, feel average, am average. Finally get a good horse in training. Cool, we're rolling. Lose the good horse. Somebody else that's won a lot more money, that's better than me, gets the horses. Then okay, no problem. We keep rolling, keep executing. That's hard. You finally get a group of pretty good horses. But I got a group of customers that's testing me. They're not confidently sending me the horses like they do now, knowing that the horses have the best chance that they, the best opportunity in those customers' minds that they could have by sending them to me. They were saying, well, we'll give you a shot at our expense. Don't screw it up. That was hard. Now, you get good horses. You got a group of good horses, customers that support you. You got margin for error. You can fail a little bit. It's okay. Now you have that responsibility. So I would say, you really gotta choose your hard in life. And I love that saying. And I guess I always tell people, like, what's hard? Staying married. It's hard? Getting divorced. It's hard? Getting rich. Also hard to be broke all your life. It's hard, like, start a business, go through all those trials. What else is hard? Working at a dead-end job you hate all your life. To me, I think I've done for whatever reason, mostly on accident, chosen the right hards, and that's, I do think you said earlier, like, hey, if I'd have come out here and it wouldn't have worked, that'd have been fine because I'd have learned a little horse riding and better horsemanship and stuff. I think every action has a natural reaction, and in most, if it's an action, a positive action you're doing to move yourself forward towards what you want, it'll have a positive reaction. That is unarguable to me. But so that's what happens. People they do what we're talking about, and then they go do something that fails. They think it's a failure or whatever, but a lot of times the reaction to that is, I've had so many times where I was moving towards something and then it just roadblocks. It seems like, well, what a waste of 2 years, or something. But usually it has a natural reaction that moves me closer to the thing that I wanted anyways.
When I decided I was going to start this podcast, you're the very first person I reached out to, because it was from that episode of you on the Converse Cowboy, and
cool.
some of those messages that were pushed through that episode that probably weren't as definite in the episode as they were to me for whatever reason. I really latched onto some stuff there. And I reached out to you 5 minutes after I listened to it the first time. And all the 5 episodes, or 4 before this, I did in preparation for this one. Yeah. Everything I've been doing so far has been trying to learn how to build these questions in a little bit of structure, because I didn't want to waste this opportunity.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And
appreciate that.
The very first person I ask is the biggest name I've had so far, and you said yes. And I mean, to have that type of humility, because I mean, you at one point had said that you have accomplished everything you had wanted to do. You have been inducted into the Hall of Fame.
I want to say I sort of misspoke on that. What I meant by that really was that, I really believe that when you picture yourself in the future, if you just stop right now and asked you in 5 minutes had to explain to me everything you think would be ideal for you in your life, that's what you're capable of. I never thought I could win the fraternity. I never thought I could win almost $4 million. I never thought I could have a successful and happy marriage and family. I never thought I could do all those things, and I had to work hard to visualize that. I had to work hard to apply myself and try to be that person. It was very hard for me. So at the point that I had done all those things, I was like, holy shit. I mean, I have accomplished everything I ever thought I was capable of. That's really what I meant by that. And that really gave me a lot of confidence to build a new vision. And since I've done that, it's amazing to me what I've accomplished. I mean, since then, and I have new, visions of myself, visions of my future, and I apply myself hopefully better than I did for those first 10 years, just because I'm more experienced, I understand, and I believe in it more. I say believe in it like it's some sort of a freaking witchcraft or something. This is how it works. And that's what I try to explain to people. You don't get a choice whether you're doing what we're talking about or not. You don't get that. You don't get that choice. This is how you were born. You're doing it to yourself or for yourself. That's your choice. Meaning you're moving, and this is it doesn't. You don't have to dip very deep into the Bible to figure out what we're talking about. You are either creating what you want or what you don't want at all times. I mean, me and a friend of mine were talking about this one time, and a computer or the internet is basically an outward version of your mind. In other words, whatever you research, which is a thought in your mind, whatever you research, that internet is just going to keep providing you with more information, more ideas, more opportunities to whatever you're researching. If you're researching everything you don't want, you're going to get more information, more opportunities, more. If you're researching what you do want, same thing. But you have to think. So there's just no, like I said, you don't get that choice. And it doesn't filter for you. The internet doesn't filter. You type in, green John Deere tractor, it's not going to show you a Kubota because it thinks they're better. Doesn't matter. It's going to give you a green John Deere tractor. So I wanted to be clear on that. It's not like I think this is something that, some people can do this and some people don't. No, it's not that way. And that's where I think it's pretty easy to be a believer. What do you have to lose? Wake up, think about what you want every day, and try to be that person.
Absolutely.
Or you can just keep doing what you're doing. If you're a person that's struggling, and see you in 10 years, you'd be doing the same thing. And I think that's why it's so important that environment counts for so much, because unless you're a person that's really mastered your mind, you're being influenced all the time. Your only other opportunity is to realize that and influence. In other words, you'll stay on a higher ground, and you'll have your standards and your morals because of the person that you are in your mind.
You had mentioned where to go here, Jeff Jefferson. You didn't really go into talking about him much, and he got mentioned, so I know there must be some importance there.
Yeah.
And I wonder what lessons you took away from that time, or what stories you may have to share about that, because he didn't come up for no reason.
Yeah. No, that's a good call. You listened very well. Jeff was a guy, so when I was a little kid, my parents were still married, Jeff was a horse trader in Colorado. We spent a Christmas with my aunt who lived in Grand Junction, Colorado there when I was 4 years old maybe. And my mom and dad and aunts, and we all went over to this guy that had a little business. Wasn't a little business, but he called it new and used horses. And he had hundreds of horses. And I absolutely fell in love with this little white horse that he called Ghost. And we had an early, maybe that was before Christmas, a month or two before Christmas, but it was a Christmas trip. And I fell in love with this horse. And then this guy kind of really enjoyed me because I was horse crazy, and he was just an amazing horseman. He wasn't a performance horse type hand. He didn't perform or show or rodeo or anything, but he just loved the horse, and he loved to study their minds, and he loved to teach them stuff, and he loved to work with them, and he was really incredible. Well, my parents bought me that little white horse, $500, I think is what it was, and it showed up on Christmas morning when I was 4 or 5 years old. Well, I kept in touch with Jeff because that was one of his favorite horses, and he enjoyed me as a little kid and stuff, and so he'd send him pictures of me on that horse and stuff. And when my parents divorced, I was running pretty feral, and we didn't have a lot of oversight on what I did and that kind of thing. I used to get on a Greyhound bus. Never forget, I rode a Greyhound bus. I don't know how old I was, but it would have been somewhere between 9 and 13 one time. And we went through Las Vegas, and I had to wait 2 hours in Las Vegas by myself. I was like 11, 12 years old. I never forget how scary that was, but I put on a show. I was being as tough as I could. And then I went to Grand Junction. Jeff picked me up, and I'd get to spend times with him. I don't have the perception of how long the periods of times were, but he was really an incredible guy. I really enjoyed the time I got to spend with him, and it probably not as much influence on my thought process like what we're talking about right now, but he shared a passion with me with those horses, and he was happy, and he was successful, and it was really a good example. He sort of set a new standard in my mind of how you could pride yourself as a horseman, and how you could, and he was drawn out there to work with the horses because he loved it, not because he needed the money. He sold horses for a living, but he really enjoyed working with them. And so to me, it just kind of grew that passion in me a little bit. And he was I was a little too young to maybe be influenced in terms of a mental state, some of the stuff we're talking about, but he just really showed me a good, clean way of living, and a good way to enjoy your life with horses. And anyway, fast forward, he had a granddaughter at that time that was maybe 2 years old, 1 or 2 years old. And fast forward 16, 17 years, I go to a show in Colorado. I hadn't talked to him for a very long time. And he came to that show and saw me, and I called him, and we reconnected. Well, that little girl was then 17, and now that's Mila that works for me, the one you met at the stalls.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she's worked for me for several years now, a couple of years, and that's been an awesome opportunity for me. I mean, Mila's in a lot better shape than I was when I used to hang with him, but it's nice to be able to sort of, I don't know how it's nice to be able to stay connected. And
yeah, absolutely.
Jeff's, I know he's real excited that she's getting to ride around me and experience this life, and ride a higher level of horse and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's been a really cool.
Well, I think, like you say, it showed you a new level of standard of what it could be, and that he enjoyed it. That he had a busy operation. I mean, 100 head of horses is no easy day.
Right.
And to have fun with it still, I mean, I think that's the big. I don't know when I started to enjoy it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, most of it that I did was because there were a lot of people that said I couldn't or I wouldn't, or because I was a stoner skateboard punk through middle school, and then I started working at a pack station with all of my high school bullies, were the rest of the crew.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it was torment the entire time. It was just because there was something saying I couldn't, and I thought I could. And then it grew, and the same deal. I went somewhere else where I just saw a new standard, and then I went and watched some event, and I saw something on YouTube, and I was like, well, they can do it. It's possible. How do I find a way to do it? And then it just has slowly creeped towards this.
I think it's cool that you're able to look at all that and see. For me, it was a really long time before I could look back and just sort of have a realization of how things really went, because it's probably similar to you. I was so frustrated. I just started enjoying this like 5 years ago. I really, and it's funny, it's like you see parents with these kids and they're 17, 18 years old, and the kids don't like their parents, and their parents are pain in their ass, and parents are just trying to help them do good, and so they're hard on them. Well, it's always about those kids' late 20s to early 30s before they really appreciate what the parents were trying to do. Mm-hmm. And to me, I think that all those influences in my life when I was way younger, I didn't appreciate until now, until later in life. You know, like Yancey James, he was really hard on me. I mean, I always speak very highly of Yancey, and when I'm interviewed about some of my story and stuff, and I still think very highly of him, but I mean, we don't talk about the days where he was frickin' hard on me. I mean, there was no sleeping in, and he would hold me to a stand. I was 14 years old, like I should be acting like I was 24, and you know, he'd tell me, "You live in an adult world, you need to act like an adult." And boy, did I thought he was being unfair at the time. But man, I look back and I'm like, he was what an advantage it was to have somebody pushing me that hard. You know, as hard as it was at the time. I could say that about a lot of people. Mm-hmm. It's hard to appreciate those things at the time.
Do you have a ritual or like a routine or something that you do that, like something in the morning where you get like an early victory to build your day on, mm-hmm. or anything like that? Or
no. I mean, I study myself obviously really hard. I'm probably more aggressively than I ever did before in the last 4 years or so, 4 or 5 years. And so I usually, if there's something I don't want or like about myself or what's going on around me, I have what I want very prepared as a weapon in my mind. Meaning, mm-hmm. you know, like if I wake up in the morning and I'm in a real crummy mood for whatever reason, and let's say I got to go down to the barn, I have the image of who I want to be and how I want to be in my mind prepared. I replace it with thinking about who I want to be and who I am. Imagine a world where people see me that way, and then I show up to the barn and try to apply myself that way. So whatever it is, I just use that as an example. If I don't really get up in the morning and make my bed, no, I mean I've seen plenty of people be real successful and not make their bed. I love the idea behind all that, but I'm just saying to me, I study common denominators, successful mm-hmm. people, and that's not one of them. You'd say drinking. Well, I don't know any raging alcoholics that are really successful, but I know people that have some beers that are really successful. I mean, I know people that sleep 8-9 hours a night that are really successful. I know people that only sleep 6 hours a night, so that doesn't have nothing to do with it. So I try to figure out what is it that they really. And I think, to be clear, I think I'm really a diligent person about what we're talking about, and I think all successful people do it. I'll make sure this sounds right. I'm not trying to say that they don't have to work as hard, but they don't have to try as hard at it in their minds. You know, mm-hmm. I read it somewhere. You can't win a battle in the world that you haven't beaten your mind. And so to me, I'm always really thinking about that. I'm always thinking about, you know, it's just like winning a certain event or something like that. If I can't imagine what it'd be like to win it and believe that I'm capable, picture what it'd look like to be wearing that buckle and what I might say in an interview, and I'm not ready for that. I don't believe it's possible. So I think some people, the reality of that actually happening for them, it's not as far away, doesn't seem as hard to hold, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you've said the common denominator here, you've said it in other interviews. When you were, you know, early, mid-20s, well, Cody Patterson worked for you. You were like 18 or 19.
Yeah,
you were on your own real early.
Yeah, I was. Cody might have been my first employee. Yeah, I think I was 18 or 19.
So when you first step out on your own and you think that you have enough tools in your bag to do it, and you're looking at your idols at that time, what was the common denominator? What was?
Well, let's go back to what you said about you think that you have the tools. You don't. You don't have the tools to be a great podcaster, but you're pretending to. Mm-hmm. That's your only option. That, to me, if you want to be successful, it's all an act. I mean, you gotta shit yourself into thinking you are, and you gotta think that other people think you are, and then over time, like I think especially the better you are at it, the more you become that. So the reality is, I didn't think I was ready. When Eric Ferreira went out on his own, worked for me for 10 years, he didn't think he was ready. He's doing amazing. When Brielle Croak last year went out on her own, she worked for me for 3 or 4 years. She certainly didn't think she was ready. She's doing great. Nobody really, the sooner, and I don't mean it in an arrogant way, but the sooner you have a better self-image and a better thought pattern and a better act prepared, so to speak, to get out there and act and apply yourself in the way you want to be. I hope that answers your question. But where did I read it? You don't get the courage after doing something. You do something, and that's where the courage comes from. And so it's like, anything you go do, it's like you don't think, okay, good, I'm set and ready. It's like having a kid. When are you ever ready to have a child? Nobody. You become a good dad if you apply yourself and want to. They become a good mom if they apply themselves and want to after they have the kid. You don't get to figure out how to be a good mom or a dad first. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So to me, really what holds people back is hesitation. They're rationalized. They have a very good reason why they will win. They'll do that, just like what you're doing. I think it's impressive. You thought about starting a podcast and you started it. I think that's brilliant. Most people, I know a lot of the people that talk about starting a podcast, and as soon as they have the right equipment, and as soon as they have practiced, and as soon as they have this and that, well, they're not really trying. To me, that's not trying. Trying is constant thought and action, working together in synchronization, moving towards something you want. If you were talking about wanting a podcast, but you're waiting until you had a good camera instead of being on your cell phone, that's not trying.
So when you're trying to hold that image of who you want to be and becoming that person and convincing people around you, it seems to me that there's a lot of room for ego or the wrong type of attitude to come with that. How do you watch out for that? I mean, nobody wants...
Yeah.
And especially in what you do and what I'm hoping to do in the future as far as the horse training goes, you have to be a responsible amount of arrogant to convince people you're the right guy to compete on their horse. And I feel like it's a real fine line between being confident, saying I am the guy that's I'm going to beat the rest of these all-stars, and being a prick.
Yeah. I mean, I think one really powerful tool, I think, is to remember no matter what is gratitude. Gratitude fuels generosity in people, in the world. So when you're getting opportunities that you're having to convince yourself you've earned. In other words, somebody sends you a really good horse and you're not ready. It's really good to express gratitude. I mean, you certainly don't want to be arrogant or boastful or thinking, yeah, I'll show them. It's not about that. I think if you exercise what you want to be in your mind, if you've thought it through, the kind of person, how do you want the people to view you in the world? Do you want them to view you as an arrogant prick? Probably not. Nobody really wants that. So the image you're holding in your mind doesn't involve that guy. So you want them to view you as a confident personality and somebody that knows what they're doing, right? So you got that in your mind. That's how the world views you. So then you go out there and apply yourself in that way and pretend to be that person or act that scene out in your life. So to me, it never really comes. It doesn't come with that danger of being a prick or being arrogant, because being a prick, being arrogant, that comes from not knowing who you want to be and really wanting people to give you respect that you haven't for something you're not. All you can do is the best you can in applying yourself according to the image in your mind of who you are, how the world sees you. I personally, I would never want the world to view me as a person of arrogance or a person that is boastful or a person that's, any of those negative traits. I wouldn't want that. So I try not to view myself that way. I really think that you can get a real understanding of what you think of yourself. Go ahead and imagine a group of people that love you and that you respect, and imagine them talking about you. What you think they're saying is what you think of yourself. The superpower of it all is it's your mind, it's your imagination. You can imagine them saying whatever you want, and then as you do that and you create that and you apply yourself in that way, you go out there in the world and you act like the guy they're talking about. Then they don't change. You change. you start to become that, whatever that is. You know, to me, that's probably the most important thing when it comes to being an advancing personality. It's the most important thing, is to understand that.
As you climb the ladder and became that advanced personality and have true success and sit among a higher class of horsemen and have people looking at you, how do you personally accept the responsibility of influence, whether it's just by your action and competing and being an example of someone that can be a winner, or stepping out on the edge a little bit and doing these type of interviews and having like a direct line to the influence? What I'm asking is, when I think of influencing somebody, I think it's hard sometimes to not say, well, my idea or my way is better than yours. That's why I think you should listen to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I used to never really share all this. You know what I mean? I didn't share all these thoughts and stuff because a lot of time I didn't want to hear anybody's opinion if they thought I was wrong. I didn't want to hear anybody's, but then when somebody I respect spoke, I would listen very clearly, and I'd think about it a lot. So then I realized here a few years ago, I wondered why I didn't give myself the same credit I give my peers. If I had some of the people that I give a lot of credit to in life, if Austin Shepard or Paul Hansma or Morgan or a Kenny or a Don or any of those went on a podcast and talked about how they think, I would respect it. And I would, I may not agree with it all, I may not, whatever, I'll take what I can take from it, but I would certainly respect it. And I wondered why I didn't give myself the same respect I would give somebody I respected. So I decided to give myself the credit, and some people may not like all this. Some people may just think that I've been a real lucky guy, you know what I mean? And that's okay. I don't mind that. That doesn't affect me at all. But I really enjoy to do these things because I think that I really wished I'd understood them better when I was a little bit younger, because life would have been easier. Life's still not easy in every way and stuff, but it's a lot better than it ever was, and I really hope that it helps people. I hope that they take something from it that really can change their life. That book changed my life. And if there would have been guys in the same business that I'm in or similar, somebody I was interested in that I could listen to, and they could really sort of explain things to me in those ways. And I think that I never regret anything or look in the past and wish things would have been different, because it all happens for a reason, but I think it could come faster, a lot faster.
When you start handling business, now I'd like to kind of shift this conversation a little bit towards people that are looking for that next step. Maybe they don't have the time to go work for somebody and be an assistant, but they're a pretty good ranch hand, they make a nice horse, and they can day work and flip some colts or something. But some of the things that you don't ever think about when you're starting your business, especially when you start interacting with the public about like their expectations from you as a trainer. And Clinton Anderson, he has a great mind for business, and him, along with several other people, a lesson that I'm learning is about delivering more perceived value than their financial cost. And there are a lot of things as a trainer that are the same. You have to take good care of the horse. You have to give them good quality and consistent training, all those type of things that just naturally come with it. What is something that you try to do in your program to deliver
more use value than somebody gives you in cash value?
Yeah.
And that's a tough one in the horse training deal, and I've thought about that a lot. And I don't know that I have a great answer for it, except for I especially now, trying not to be as busy as I was, I would really like for my people that have horses with me and stuff are doing it, just like I might go team roping. I'm not a very good team roper, but I enjoy it. And when I get a time, I like to go do it. I don't need to make money doing it. It's fun. It's fun when I win. I like to win money. I like to win a buck. I like to win a Yeti cooler. But what I don't, it's worth the money to me if I have a good time, if I enjoy it, if I like who I'm roping with. So I think that for me, what I can offer most people that have cutting horses, you know, they're cowboys and cowgirls is what they're in their hearts, and then they got a real job. They got a real life outside that. So when they come to enjoy the cowboy, cowgirl experience, what I can offer is the best use value, and that is I can. I mean, I can help them learn to perfect their craft riding. So I've always felt like information is the most valuable thing I can sell, because I'm the only one that has it in the way that I have it, the only way that can teach it in the way that I teach it. And I can never run out of it. I can keep selling it forever. So to me, and it's worth whatever it's worth to somebody. So I just really try to make sure that when somebody rides with me or has horses with me, that I offer them any information or education or whatever that I possibly can about the craft that they love or the sport that they love. You know, that's to me all you can really do is just enhance the experience for them the best you can, because you can't guarantee a win. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't guarantee a win.
So that kind of leads me into another talk. Speaking of clients, and maybe you build your program around people who are directly participating, non-pros or weekend, just going to local shows or whatever. But at some point, I'm sure you've had clients where you have this pool who is involved and they come and ride, and then these absentee owners who are just looking for you to bring in results and checks. Mm-hmm. And if you find a larger struggle with that type of client, that, I mean, it's a write-off, or it's a more of a business transaction than a passion for them.
I'm really, really fortunate, and probably the wrong guy to ask that question to, because I've really worked towards, I really only ride horses for people I enjoy anymore. I mean, that sounds very bold and arrogant of me to say. I don't mean that I get the choice and I get to just call whoever I want and they'll send me a horse. But fortunately, I've attracted people that enjoy me, and I enjoy them. Mm-hmm. Most of my clients I'm pretty friend. I mean, I talk to them more than I do my friends outside work. I mean, and we chat. I'll get on the phone and be talking to a customer for an hour sometimes, or, you know, I don't even talk to them very often, but when I do, we enjoy each other. I mean, they believe in me, they trust me, they might have their complaints, or that they want to visit with me about something, but it's always a productive conversation. 9 times out of 10, they're right. I need to rethink something, handle something a little bit differently. Whatever the complaint is, 9 times out of 10, they're right, but it's a friendly conversation. And I've had it the other way. I mean, I've had it where almost every customer was difficult, and that's been my job to change that in my mind, and work hard to develop a group of people that we enjoy each other. So I'm not, don't care if they ride or they don't ride, or we both ride the horse or they're not around. As long as we're all on the same team, we enjoy each other, and we're all shooting for the same goal, then that's just the way I want it. And I'm not saying I get the choice, you know, necessarily just to cherry pick my people, but I'm pretty fortunate that way.
So I think that a lot of people will appreciate the fact where you just say 9 out of 10 times they were right, and there was some minor adjustment that can be made that makes that problem go away. But it's not 100% of the time. Mm-hmm. What is something that you provide, or that is a general theme amongst most high-end programs, that is being provided to the horse or to the client directly that they don't recognize until maybe a situation happens?
You're talking about basically something that that I may feel the customers take for granted.
Yeah,
and that's
like,
frustrating.
I know it's a difficult situation because nobody wants to bag on the people that are writing them a check.
Sure, no, that's right.
But the same way you're willing to take accountability, I don't think it's wrong to look at the other side of the coin. And
I love the truth. It's never gotten me in trouble.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to talk on that. A lot of times, I think, and I've really tried to change this in my mind a little bit because a lot of times it's mostly in your mind, you know. But I've felt in the past a lot of times that the customers don't really understand how much time, not just me, but my whole crew and staff put in. I mean, and how much blood, sweat, and tears, and then they roll up, and you know, let's say I got the crew and they have iced this horse. They took it on a trail ride. They gave it a good bath. They braided its mane. I worked it. The work didn't go very good, so I took a little ride, and I came back and I camped on it and worked it slow for 20 minutes. And I did all this. I mean, we have prepared for this show really, really well. And the customer rolls up and goes, seems like his tail was longer before. Would something happen to his tail? You didn't turn him out with another horse, did you? You know, and that is sometimes really hard to, you know, and here I got my crew just spent the whole time the horse has been there taking as best care as they can of this horse. And but what I think sometimes they may not understand how much that the group of people that's taking care of that horse loves them, and how hard we all try for them. But I've realized that a lot of times has nothing to do with that. A lot of times it's not that they're not misunderstanding the work that's done. They have every right to ask about the horse's tail. Looks a little shorter the last time, but there's been times I've been a little defensive about that stuff because, you know, I feel that I can feel a little disrespected sometimes that way, and then you can get in your mind real quick and start thinking that nobody appreciates what you're doing. That's all bullshit. It's just that's personal. That's in your mind. And I would rather hold it in, you know, realize it in my mind that these people really respect and appreciate my efforts, and they love my crew and they appreciate them. And a question like that's pretty damn easy to answer, you know. So I think that that's our responsibility as a trainer to have some understanding that poor person would love to be around that horse every day. They only get to see it once a month because they work and they travel and do all this stuff. And
so you had talked at, I forget what podcast it was, but you were talking about you were potentially needing to raise prices, and you were trying to find a solution because of cattle fees. And that led you into buying a couple bucking heifers and growing that program. And at the time, I think you said, now I'm running 300 yearlings or something like that. You found a creative solution. It gave you another avenue to not only cut your costs, which is putting more money in your pocket, but also now, if you have the right amount of animals and they're getting the time off and they're still on the game, you have another source of income. And so I wonder how you manage a busy training program with taking care of a decent amount of yearlings.
so that is a prime example of what I'm talking about a roadblock. This was a little bit of a moment of panic. You asked me how often does that happen, or when does that ever stop? And then it feels like, you know, things excuse me. Realizing I might have to go up $200 or $300 per horse was a thought that I was going to lose a lot of horses. I'm finally doing really good, you know. But the reaction, moving all the way to right now, what I really wanted at that time was to have a way better income. I wanted it to be diversified. I didn't want to be reliant only on training horses. I wanted to be diversified. I wanted to have more things. That was what I was really trying to figure out in my mind. That's what I was working hard in my mind to figure out and do. Well, the adversity forced me into it. Now I'm in the cattle business as well, and I do really enjoy it. We run 200 to 300 head of yearlings. I put them together myself. I go to the sale barn myself and buy them. Wednesdays when I'm home, we put them together as loads, and I sell them on a video or whatever, and put a couple 100 pounds on them, and try to one season them at least, and I really, really enjoy it. Well, that hard time, I always say hard times create easy times. Hard days create easy days. That was a hard time trying to figure all that out. It was stressful for me and my wife to figure out. Ends up being a great outcome. I'm so grateful all that happened. The ranch had to go up on the board. Cows were costing way too much. Here we are. Long story short, that's what I try to encourage people to, when you have adversity, if a person could just say, I wonder why. I'm excited. I wonder why. There's got to be a good reason. Because I know where I'm going, and I know what I want. I know who I'm becoming, and I know who I am, the start of the person that I want to be. So there's no way this is going to hold me back. What's the reason it happened? That would take a lot of confidence, in adversity. But that's really been the reality throughout my whole life. every time something like that happens. So I just wanted to make that point. But back to your question was, how do I manage all these different things? You know, we have a lot of things, more than just the cow business and the horse business and stuff. But I would have to say that probably the broadest answer to that was I really love what I do. I don't ever take a day off. I mean, I hardly ever take a day off. If I'm a little tired from working horses, then I'll go check cows, doctor cows, do that kind of thing, run mineral to cows, you know, or get on the phone and do some of the other businesses that we have and what we do. And so I think that's a broad answer. It's not that hard for me to work hard because, and I'm not saying I'm consider myself one of the hardest workers or anything, but I do love what I do. So that becomes a little easier. I got great support. I got a great team. My wife does a lot. She's in the office every day, 6-8 hours a day, in and out of the office, you know, getting stuff done. Brother Clint works for me. He handles he's a handyman, fixes things constantly, you know. So a lot of support. Got a great environment, got a great group of people around me. But if it was something that I didn't enjoy, I don't think it'd be possible.
Mm-hmm. That kind of takes me, before you started to mention some of the people that you have on your team and having good help, especially in this generation, like people my age and younger, I think it is probably even worse in people 5-10 years younger than me. But if you're just willing to show up, you're already in maybe the top 20% of people just because you're there every day. Then it's a smaller group who are going to show up every day and have a good attitude. And then there's an even smaller group that are going to show up with a good attitude and work their ass off. When you finally sift through everybody and you get one of those people on your team, what do you do or try to do, or is it just a natural thing that happens to keep those ones around?
Appreciation fuels generosity. So I think the most important thing is I want those people to know that I value them. If they're not valuable, I don't show that much appreciation. You know, I mean, I'm not mean to them or anything, but I mean, the ones that work there, that work really hard and are, and I want to say this, I think that the best people, the best help I've ever had are very selfish. And what I mean by that is, I try to explain this to a lot of people, and I don't think I get through to them as much as I wish I did, but I think that you should work really hard and you should show up early and that you should stay late and you should do a little bit more than what's required of you in every day, because for a selfish reason. I think you should do that because that's who you are. And when you get there, things are better. And when you're there, it gets done faster. And when you're there, it's smoother. When you're there, there's not as many problems. And when you're done, it looks better. And so to me, in order to promote yourself, make yourself more valuable. I heard Jim Rohn once say one time, work harder on yourself than you do at your job. And I think what that means is become the hub of value. And with that, there's no way to ever stay where you're at. If you'll just do a little bit more than what's required of you, then you start to gain a little bit more opportunity. It's just period. You do a little bit less than what's required of you, then you're a great employee. You'll stay there forever. So to me, it's like, I don't want people to get up and work hard to impress me. That actually just drives me nuts. I do not want that at all. I want them to do it for themselves. I want people that work for me, I want them to work hard because I want them to prove to themselves, the world, whatever it is that they need to prove it to, that the reason it's better is because of them, and then not have to lie to themselves about it. It really is better because you're there. You know, if I'm going to clean stalls, like myself, if I'm going to show them I'm going to clean stalls, those stalls are going to look outstanding. And if people know I'm cleaning stalls, and I've done this with my crew, if they know, if I'm cleaning stalls as well, them stalls are going to look great. Want to know why? Because I'm involved, and that's who I am, and I pride myself in being that person. It has nothing to do with wanting to outdo anybody else or anything like that. I just want myself to know, and I want when people, if people want to hire a stall cleaner, I want to be the first guy they call, because when I'm there, it's better. And I'm doing that for myself. I'm not doing that to make anybody happy. I'm not doing that to make employer, my customers, impressed with how good I could clean a stall. No, it's because anything I'm involved in, I want to bring the most value to that. Like I said, I've explained that to a lot of people. I'm not sure I get it across the way I want to. But.
No, I mean, I'm going to be honest, that you kind of just called me out without even knowing it, because I really fall into the trap of, if I go above, or I feel like maybe this person is slacking, without being asked, I pick up the slack, because it's not like, me and Bob work for Monty. It's not Monty's responsibility. He's paying us to get this job done. So if Bob's being lazy, I'm going to pick it up, and I don't mean, but I always, in the back of my head, I'm like, when is someone going to come pat me on the back and say, good job, Carter, 100%. I appreciate it. And
see, and I think you should do, when it talks about the certain way, we talked about the certain way. I wish you could do that in a certain way to create yourself into the hub of value. It's not to outwork Bob. It's not to impress boss man. It has nothing to do with that. It's because that's who you are. It's like you become the top. Let's just talk about cutting. The top 15 girls or guys that lope and care for these horses, these better end horses, they pick up the phone and they call any one of the top 20 trainers. They'll have a job in 20 seconds, no interview necessary, because they provide a lot of value. Because they come and I'm not saying they can name their price, but they're worth more than everybody else, because they show up, things are better. The horse is cleaner, the horse is in better shape, the horse's water's cleaner. That girl brings value, worth money to me. Bring her on. That guy rides great, treats horses well, shows up, and he does it because he loves it, because he's that person, not to impress his boss. So if it was just to impress your boss, then the next guy you were trying to get a job from would question hiring you. But when you're consistently, daily, that person that is going above and beyond, so to speak, I don't ever want people to fear their own laziness or think that I'm not sure I can work a lot harder. It's not that you're working harder. It's the reason you're doing it that changes the whole game. You don't have to outwork anybody. You don't have to worry about what anybody else is doing. You should get up there and do the work that needs done every day. Not yesterday's work that should have been done. Forget about it if it didn't get done. Not tomorrow's work. You don't need to do stuff that's supposed to be done tomorrow. If you're doing that to impress somebody. Do the work and do it well, whatever needs done today. And do it because that's the kind of person you are. That's how you see yourself. That's how you want the world to see you. And that's a game changer if you can really get that in your mind.
Tell me that this may have come from you as well, and it's kind of exactly what you were just saying. But it was, if you have 8 horses to ride, you get up when you need to do, and you go through all your steps, and you do a good job on those 8 horses. The same if you have 1 horse to ride. There's no need to get up at 3 in the morning as if you're. You know what I mean?
That's what everybody else is doing.
Yeah. Was that from you as well?
Yeah. I mean, I just think that when you're doing that, when you're confusing, I don't want anybody to ever think I'm not promoting hard work. It takes hard work to be successful, no doubt about it. But not for a competitive reason, not to compete, not to prove to the customers that you work harder than the other person that they have horses with. It's not why. I think that you need to do the work that needs done. If you've only got 7 horses, why in the world, and it's 70 degrees that day, why in the world do you start at 3? Is that because your neighbor that trains horses starts at 4? Is that why? That's not a good reason. That's a competitive reason. I heard it somewhere that anything that's won in competition is yours today and somebody else's tomorrow. If it was up for competition at the time you won it, it's up for competition for somebody else to win it later. Anything you create is yours forever. In other words, become the person. Become the person that does the work and does it well. That's creating. That's being creative. I'm not doing that because somebody else, I need to outdo anybody. To me, anytime anybody's getting up early like that for no reason or staying a little bit later, they're comparing themselves to their neighbor. And comparison is a thief of joy, and it will slow down your progress. It has nothing to do with that. You should think about who you are in your mind, who you want to be. You should go out there and apply yourself in that way. And you should do the work that needs done that way. And then that needs done that day well. That's my strong opinion on that. I'd say that's a common denominator between successful people. You look at the very successful people in the world at what they do. Matt Gaines doesn't give a rat's ass what time Austin Shepard starts in the morning. But if it's hot and Matt's got 20 to ride, he'll start at 2 in the morning. If it's 60 degrees where Austin is, he'll start at 8. Doesn't matter. But he's going to do the work. They will do the work. Has nothing to do with the comparison. That's, I guess, what I mean by that.
I really think that anyone who's listening to this needs to listen to buy those books, because that is the exact principle that is in The Science of Getting Rich. That through the entire series, I guess there's being great, there's
being well, and being rich.
Yeah. That same theme runs through all of them. Exactly what you were saying about the competitive mind frame versus the creative mind frame. And I there's not really a question in there, but I was curious how much, because you said it was one of the most recommended readings that you talk about. I was really curious to see how much of those ideas I was going to find in our conversation. And I mean, that's literally the key principle.
I've listened to it so much over the last 20 years, and I don't even really think about it. I write things down as they come in my mind, and that, because there are ways that I can understand it a little better, and in modern time understanding and perspective on the same ideas. But that, I mean, you know, I'm not making any money on selling that book, but I will tell you, I thought, and I've had other people read it and they liked it and enjoyed it and then kind of put it back down. And I mean, it's just pretty incredible. I think it's an incredible book, but it's just basically living the way that we're talking about. It's a constant application and a constant struggle's the wrong word, but it's kind of like really wanting to get in shape but refusing to go to the gym. Yeah, you got to do both. You got to go to the gym.
Yeah.
You think about how you want to look and how you want to be and what kind of shape you want to be in, and then you got to go to the gym. It's the same thing with your life, and you got to think about what you want, how you want it to be, how you want people to perceive you, how you want the world to see you, how you want to be able to influence the world and those kind of things, and then you got to go execute, apply yourself, act on it, however you want to. It's really a pretty simple thing. It's either do that or do it the opposite, which is think about what you don't want and then go apply yourself in that way. There's only two options. You don't have to get it perfect. I want to make that real clear. You don't have to, you know, let's say you're a person that has a really bad habit. So you start to build an image of your mind of yourself without that habit. And then you go out there and you still have that habit for a while. Every time it crosses your mind, apply yourself in the way you want to be, the best you can. Maybe other people are better than me, but that's all I've ever been able to do. Incrementally, change myself, work hard on myself incrementally. It's never been like, there's never been an aha moment for me in anything. I don't think that it works that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can certainly myself confirm that idea, because like I've been a little bit heavier. Like right now, I'm probably weigh like 196, 197 the last time I was on a scale. 3.5 months ago, I was almost 230.
Oh, wow, good for you.
And I started, once I got a little bit of traction, I started really trying to get addicted the same way to the negative things, to the drinking, to the hanging out and doing whatever, to the things that make me feel good. Exercising, training, I do some other stuff.
Applying yourself. Doesn't even matter what you're doing. You're acting on it. You're applying yourself. The more you think about it, the more you apply yourself, the faster getting in shape comes. It's no different than in your mind and with who you want to be or what you want to become. So many people think it's so far away, and it's like I'm going to be a little, whatever you want to call this right here, the fatter you are, the harder it is to see yourself skinny. The dumber you are, the more ignorant you are, the farther you away from being a successful person, the harder it is to see yourself successful in what you want to do. It's no different, but it doesn't change the principle.
Yeah.
You can keep getting fatter. You can keep getting broker. You can keep getting, going down the wrong road.
Yeah.
Or you can slowly, you can get up. You're a huge guy. You can get up in the morning, take a walk, start to apply yourself. Maybe in 3 months you'll be jogging. Incrementally apply yourself. To me,
I think it's real easy from the bottom looking up or the outside looking in, whatever way you want to say it. You think at some point that the flip switches and it stays on. And I mean, if you want to talk about intensity when it comes to self-discipline, like David Goggins takes the crown. And I was just listening to a Joe Rogan podcast, and forget who he was talking to, but they're talking about the same kind of principle about starting, it falls off, it comes back a little bit sooner, and you try a little bit longer. And David Goggins is the most intense person there probably is. And he says, sometimes I wake up in the morning before I go run, and I stare at my shoes for 30 minutes before I put them on and build that motive. So you also have to just get comfortable in knowing that you have to try, that you have to just go through the motions. And maybe you're not going to run 4 miles every day. Maybe someday you just don't have it in you, but you got up and you made a quick mile and you get on with your day, or you woke up late so you squeezed in some, you know what I mean? Not that exercise is it, but whatever it is,
It's really hard to be. It's really hard. I don't really know how a person learns this, but if you're not obsessed with progress, every successful person I've ever met in any line of work, business, is obsessed with progress. David Goggins is obsessed with progress with his body. Overly, to an extreme. Anybody I've ever met, horse trainers, lawyers, dentists, you don't matter. They are obsessed with progress in their life. They're obsessed with progress in their business. Or if they're a kind of person who likes to do their own landscaping in their yard, they're obsessed with the progress of that. And if you can't find an obsession of progress, you're probably doing the wrong thing. I think is what I would say. You're doing the wrong thing. If you can't get obsessed with the progress of it, I've never met anybody that became successful, certainly not in short order, without have some obsession. And I think the contrary to that is people that worry about it. Now that's a waste of time. Worrying about what might go wrong, worrying about how it's even possible. Well, there's always an incremental step towards what you want. If you're obsessed with it, you'll get as close as you can, as fast as you can. Waste your time worrying, it's like a step back.
Is there a way that you could explain the difference between not worrying and being reckless? There's an obvious line. You don't drain your bank account and invest in a house that is also a fixer-upper, and now you have a broken house and no money to fix it. Obviously, there's an extreme, but there's got to be, to take proper risks to advance yourself, there is also got to be a line to where you can go too far.
I think the only time, that's a tough one. The only time something is reckless is if you had to hurry. If you had to hurry up and you had no vision for it, meaning you bought that house and you just want to do something, and then real quick they want more money, you find it and you do it real quick before something goes wrong. Got to hurry up and buy this house. You hadn't even thought about how you were gonna pay the mortgage and how you were gonna come up with the money to fix it. That's hurrying. Go as fast as you can, but never hurry. That's in that book. And basically, if you have a hurried feeling, you need to rush to do it. That would be the only thermometer I could think of being reckless versus not hesitating. Hesitation kills. But
being secure in your steps, not jumping through.
Because if you don't hurry and you buy that house and you lose that house, there's going to be a good outcome from that. You're going to learn something real good, and something's going to make the next deal 10 times better. Only way I can prove that to you is to tell you to try it. But if you hurry up and do something and you push against all the things that are telling you no, probably not a smart call, right? But I don't think there's any way to fail unless you quit. So let's say you do hurry up, mess up, and buy that house, and you lose it. It dings your credit. You hadn't failed yet, not unless you give up. Then you have. So there's two ways to look at that. I guess that's a tough one to answer. But.
Yeah. Well, and it's certainly like when we were pregnant before Ace was born, I had a pickup with no heater, no AC, 370,000 miles on it, and a dented door you had to open from the inside. And in a hurry, finally said, I got lucky and had an outside horse here. I got lucky and flipped a horse there and scrounged up $4,500. And the first car that had AC and four rows of seats or whatever so you could have a back door, I bought, went and drove it, kind of had a feeling it was kind of a shiesty looking guy, pulled the trigger. 3 days later, no AC, and we're going 10 miles an hour down I-5. A good example. And then, but within 8 months of that, had more success, worked a little harder. The timeline was getting crunched. I knew I had to get something because what I had was not acceptable. And came away with a brand new pickup with 100,000 miles on it. It have a payment on it, but found a more secure setting and found a way to budget that money into it.
Ended up being a good outcome.
Yeah.
I guess that's my point. And I can say just from my own experiences in life, and you talk about risk and taking risk, and I have lost tremendous amounts of money on different things I've invested in and those kind of things, but I've never regretted a single one I've done. I've never regretted taking a risk. Not because there's always a good outcome. I have regretted several that I wanted to do and didn't. Several properties I thought I should have bought and didn't do for this reason, and because I was going to wait until I was ready and this and that. Well, now those places are worth 3 times what they were, and I guess I would regret not doing the things, not acting on those urges and desires to do something, get out there.
If we step back and go back to what we were talking about, that set of assistant trainers or lopers, where you're saying this top 20% could call the top 20% and have a job on the spot. What are some qualities about them that give them that indispensable value?
Well, obviously, relative skill. I mean, they have applied themselves for long enough that they have a skill set that is valuable. But more importantly than that, I think that they do that, whether it's on purpose or not. They do that because that's the person they want to be. That's how they want the world to perceive them. That's how they perceive themselves. So they get out there not to impress their employer. They do that because they want to have that. They are the hub. I don't know how else to say that, but they are the value is in them. It's not because other people recommend them. They got the reputation, the skill set. They know wherever they go now because they've applied themselves long enough that they bring it with them. What
about people who maybe have the right vision and attitude and try, but maybe are behind in the skills? Is there still a spot for them in a high-level program like yours?
Absolutely.
If you can recognize that in them?
Absolutely. To me, an advancing personality is attracted to another advancing personality. I meet somebody that I can tell is really a person that clearly knows what they want and wants something, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to get that. And when I say that, I'm not like committing them to slavery, but they're willing to slave for themselves. Meaning they'll do whatever it takes. You know what I mean? They'll sleep in a stall with a horse when it's sick. They'll do whatever it takes to become that person that carries the value around with them. It's a personality. That's not a skill set. You got to get the skill set to become one of those people, like I said, that can make a phone call.
Yeah.
I'll give a little bit of credit to Mila that works for me. I would say that she could call any of the top trainers right now. That she barely has to say, hello, this is Mila. They'd say, okay, get your plane ticket, come on. There's a lot of those. All the top guys usually have 1 or 2 of those people that are that way. It's a personality, like I said. I think it's It's not an envious personality. It's not a competitive personality. That's a sure sign. You get somebody coming along and they're nothing but jealous of the person that's getting to do a little bit more than they are. They ain't worried about becoming more. They're worried about people around thinking that they're more and them getting credit and getting opportunity and stuff. They're more than the other person. It's a competitive mindset. And that person that's just there to genuinely learn, try, apply themselves. It's obvious quick. I don't care if you don't know how to ride. I've had a lot of people that didn't even know how to ride. Tyler Chan, we call him Turnback Tyler because he learned how to ride a horse while he turned back for us. Yeah, he showed up. He wasn't perfect. He's a buddy of mine. He wasn't perfect in any way, but he really wanted to learn how to ride. He really wanted to be a good cowboy. He genuinely didn't compare himself to Eric or anybody else that worked for me. He just wanted to ride well. I think 2 years into, he didn't know how to put a halter on a horse. He loped Steel Betty for me at the World Finals, and I won, marked 232, I think, the highest score I've ever marked. He prepared her. He had prepared her most of that year, but he applied himself in that way every day and learned how to ride good. So it's a personality, I think, thing. And like I said, a person should work harder on themselves and they do it their job. They're not working hard at work to keep their paycheck. They're not working hard at work to impress their boss. They're working hard at work to become what they want to be. It's just a personality.
As more money is put into the Western performance industry as a whole across every discipline, you're starting to see more people relying on a 2-year-old program or buying horses into their 2-year-old year because they're gone so much. It's hard to haul your show horses and to haul this load of 2-year-olds that you need to keep working because you can't just leave them with the assistant for half the year. Not that they're not worth it, but at some point you need to check in. As the need for 2-year-old specific programs start to build, do you see this as an opportunity for more assistant trainers to branch out on their own without having a huge set of victories showing under somebody else and developing that into their own show string eventually?
Yeah, I think so. If they have a relative skill set, they've got to be good at it. And it takes a long time. You can't master a craft. I don't think you ever do, for one, but you can't really get to a level in your craft in a short time. You can master the personality, I think, in a short time that becomes that, but you can't master the art itself in a short time. Me and Eric Ferrer were talking the other day about how I just feel like he worked for me for 10 years, but we were talking about how we really have just gotten a little bit better every year. We talk about this year and last year and the year before and all the things we've learned, and just a little bit better every year. But to answer your question, I really think for a lot of guys, and I'm probably going to piss somebody off here, but a lot of guys, the whole I'm going to be a 2-year-old guy because that's what I want to do thing, not all of them. There's some really great 2-year-old guys. Gerald Alexander is one of my heroes, and he was a great 2-year-old guy. And there's plenty of other ones, but a lot of times that's just an out for them, meaning they don't have the confidence to verbally say, I want to be a cutting horse trainer. Almost all of them would rather be a top trainer, but they can't see the invisible. That what they can see is I could probably train 2-year-olds. I want to do this, and I can see myself at least getting to do that. And that's just they can't see the invisible. And usually, when Eric Ferrer left working for me, he was going to start a 2-year-old program. He believed that. He believed in himself to that extent. Well, gradually, now he's making finals in Fort Worth, and he's hauling. He's got a lot of horses, and he still does the 2-year-old deal very well and a lot. But I think that's more of just a protection for their own minds, so they don't have to risk that failure. That's probably, like I said, I'll probably piss some people off saying that. Not all of them. Some of them genuinely like staying home more, and but it takes a long time to learn how to train a horse. It takes a long time to learn how to show a horse. It takes a lot of failure. It takes a lot of failures to learn any of that. So you have to be a person that's gritty enough, mentally tough enough to deal with. Paul Hansman told me one time, you have to have a short memory and a high tolerance for disappointment. And that's never been more, I've never heard anything more true about trying to, and I don't think if you're training cutting horses or you want to be a race car driver, it's probably the same thing. But if you want to get to the top, you better have a short memory and a high tolerance for disappointment. you got to be able to ride through that stuff and still see the invisible truth. You got to be able to see what's out there, and that's what you want. That's what you're capable of as far as you can see. And if as you go, some people can see a long ass way. Some of us can only see a little distance, but when you get there, you can see a little farther.
Some form of traditional religion or faith or a general sense of a higher power, something that influences you?
Absolutely.
Because that is one thing, like going back to the commonalities between success. I was never very much exposed to religion, and the older I get, the more I sense the urge to start that dance. And to be honest, a lot of times where I feel the want to approach it, I get to feeling that it's kind of like silly, because a lot of people that are representatives of faith are so, for lack of a better word, theatrical about it. And it kind of, like someone on the border, like for me, it's easy to make me like embarrassed or feel goofy about it.
Sure.
But I notice so many successful people, especially in our disciplines, that have a strong relationship with God or some form of that. And I'm curious what your relationship with that is, and how you would try to influence someone. Use me as an example that is in a fork in the road with true aspiration and ambition, and trying to find the right things to believe in.
Man, that is a fantastic question, and that's comes with a lot of responsibility to answer that question. So I want to answer that the best I can. But listen, I was very lucky. My mom was very strong Christian. Just because you're a strong Christian doesn't mean you got to be a perfect person. I think that's the biggest misconception. I think we the luckiest thing. For whatever reasons it happened. When Jesus Christ came and died on the cross, in the New Testament of the Bible is written, where do you think Wallace D. Wattles learned what he wrote in The Science of Getting Rich and Being Great? To me, it's just clear and to the point, and only on the subject that we're talking about is that book. But my only way I could, I guess, challenge the thought that it's not out there and it doesn't help is prove me wrong. My whole life I've relied on that. I have always believed in God. I've always believed in Jesus Christ. My mom instilled that in me, and leaned on that through a lot of hard times, and now I've learned to lean on it for good things, in my life in the last 10 years. But I guess what I'm saying is everything we're talking about is well described in the Bible. The Bible, to me, is nothing but an instruction manual for our lives. I shouldn't say nothing, but that is exactly what it is. It's an instruction manual, and everything that anybody talks about in terms of the subject we're on, which is a strong mental mindset and how to progress in your life, is all very clearly written in the Bible. I know that the holding something in your mind, moving towards it, is instructed very well in the Bible. Proven it to myself 1,000 times. That is my relationship with God, and gratitude is the only thing I can give back that I know, besides doing my best to live for Him. In other words, I think it's just the most important thing you'll ever do in your life, which is influence in a good way. I'm certainly not perfect at that at all, but it is an effort that I make, and I think that's the only other thing I can do is try to influence the world in a way that to work for Him and not against Him, and then be grateful for the opportunity is all I think I can do.
Yeah, and one thing that crosses my mind a lot about not feeling qualified, maybe because you don't have the answers, I think that is what qualifies you to give me an answer. Because if you were to say that you had it, that inevitably brings doubt, because isn't the whole idea that we don't have the answer and we need to believe in him, that he's
Yeah,
going to take
yeah.
us the right way?
That's a very good statement. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anybody that thinks that they know everything is got to be wrong. But I know just through my own life experiences and my own journey, seeing what it's done in other people's lives, to understand, to believe in Jesus Christ and to believe in God is to believe in the system which offers such a better life without worry, with ease, with we're meant to live this life happy, grateful, achieve and accomplish what the desires of our hearts are. And if we believe that that's provided through Jesus Christ and we execute it, to me that is we are fulfilling our responsibilities as children of God, and that's my perception of it. That is not written, that's not from a preacher that knows a lot more than I do. That's just my perception of it.
To kind of lighten things up a little bit, I'm kind of coming towards the end of the list of thoughts that I had written down. One phrase that I hear in a lot of conversations with especially performance horse people is you hear the term like a freak of nature. Like people would talk about Justin Wright or Clayton Edsall's like showmanship ability, and be like, oh, he's just a freak of nature. The way they present, they have something about them that's not really something you can put into word, and it all kind of shows in that phrase. Or horses.
I have a lot of different thoughts about what you're asking about.
Well, take it any way
that's
you
okay.
want.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, a lot of people are probably going to disagree with me on this, but I really wish people would stop thinking of some of us that are at a higher level of competition in horse sports, race cars, whatever high levels, that like these people that people see from afar and look up to in those ways, is like we got some sort of magic. We don't. There is nothing that I do, if you're physically able, you can't do. I mean, there'll be people that disagree with that. Tim Castellaw, him, a great friend of mine, he disagrees with me. He thinks that some people are born with it. And I guess to some extent I understand the point and I understand that, but I really think that it is, these are cultivated skills with a belief that we can attain them. The less we believed it, the longer it took. I think, in a more simple answer, I really think I learned from Jeff Jefferson very early in my life how a horse thinks. And every time I've veered away from that being the core of how I approach a problem or something I want a horse to learn, and I go into this horse trainer mode, I go backwards. Every time, to me, training a horse to do something it doesn't want to do, like load in the trailer, if I use the same theory I use there to get him to attach to a cow, sit, lay down, jump in the back of the truck, it's all the very same simple approach as a horseman. Tim Smith used to always tell me, be a good horseman. Don't worry about being a horse trainer. There's lots of those. Be a good horseman. So to me, and I have veered off of it a lot, you watch horse trainers and they're all good hands, and you watch them and they might be good horsemen too, but you're focused on where did they pull? How hard did they pull when he did that? You veered into this horse trainer mode that is then not a very good communication to the horse. That's pretty complicated stuff. Horses are looking for relief and release. You can teach a horse how to be a learner by, from the very first time you start working with them, that you always show them when pressure is applied, they're in control. They just have to find the solution to make it go away. So you'd start that in a very simple way. You're starting to halter break them. You pull on them. They don't like that. None of them do. They figure out how to make it go away by going forward. And then you take that, okay, You want them to back up on the halter. You apply pressure. They are in control. They can make the pressure go away by backing up. And then it's your job to be a good enough hand to manipulate the horse into doing the thing you want them to do so you can relieve the pressure. Horse doesn't want to get in a trailer. You apply pressure. When the horse looks at the trailer, you take the pressure away. The horse looks away, you reapply the pressure. So you're a good enough hand to manipulate that pressure release timing to get the horse to understand, oh, the trailer, that's what makes all this go away. All right, I'll get in. Doesn't take any time at all if you think that way. Now you start thinking, I knew this guy that put rope around his butt, and I knew this other guy that tied a rope around his belly and then threw the halter. That is not being a horseman. Now you're a horse trainer. To me, you think about a horse, you want to attach them to the flag. You want them to be actually attached to it, where they want to work it. Well, the position you want them on the flag needs to be the point of release. Never apply pressure when they're there. If you need to apply pressure because they're being stiff, you go off the flag, trot a circle, work on the stiff spot, come back to the flag for the point of release. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So it's all, to me, I don't think of it, and I finally gave myself enough credit a few years ago that I get to think about it the way that it makes sense to me. If one of my peers that's really good explained the way they do it, I would listen and I'd respect it. Well, I used to not give myself the credit, and I wanted to be like these better hands, and that held me back. I think if you understand the basic principles of how a horse thinks, and you're a good enough hand to manipulate them into doing what you want, then you can relieve the pressure. And the smoother you can do that, the better you are. There's nothing magical about that. That is something I feel like I can teach about anybody if they want to learn it. It's not that difficult, but it's becoming a good hand, that takes time. That's difficult. You can attain it if you really want to.
So we're kind of on the topic now of like principles that relate to horse behavior, meaning like the pressure and release idea is like that carries across every discipline. Do you think it's possible, like for an example, Bob is a rope horse guy, but this guy over here is a cutting trainer. You have something of value that could help him, but perhaps it's not the same discipline. Mm-hmm. But the generality of horsemanship and truly understanding a horse, to leave this discipline, he wants to be a roper, but there's a mental value at Monty's program that he can take back to the roping.
Absolutely.
Or if Monty wanted to stop cutting and he wanted to go to the rope horse fraternity in a couple of years, obviously you need the repetition the same way you work cutters every day. You would need to rope horses the same way. Do you think that type of transition is possible?
It all correlates. The thought process of being a horse, it all correlates. If I wanted to change and become a reining horse trainer, I would have a long ways to go in terms of learning technique. I would have a long ways to go in terms of learning the fundamentals, the maneuvers. But once I understood how they, I'll make the what I was saying earlier a little more complicated. When a cutting horse turns, we want their inside hind foot to move around their outside hind foot. We want to move their back feet around. It took me a long time to be a good enough hand to manipulate that to happen so I could offer some release after it happens. Now, rope horse trainer might not get on a cutting horse and have the skill set to, he can understand that, he can know what to do after it happens if he's a good horseman, but to manipulate it to happen, that's feel and timing. That takes nothing but a lifetime of dedicated devotion to developing that skill set. But the understanding of what it needs to do, and that you need to apply the appropriate amount of pressure depending on the horse, and then the appropriate amount of release depending on the horse after it's done, so that way they will recognize the transition from pressure and release. That understanding, that translates to any discipline. Somebody's got a horse in jumping that's got a problem, I could go over there and help them for sure. If, to explain to them where to apply the pressure, when the horse's attention goes a certain way, how to take it away. But I couldn't get on it and teach one how to do what they teach it to do. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it all correlates to me, I think, and that's my strong opinion on the subject. I don't think it's any. All horses, just like people, though, some of them are more intellectually smart and they pick up on things faster, but they all understand things the same way. They're all looking for the same thing.
How do you continue to desire outside influence, and when you see something that you like, how do you find a way to make it fit your program?
Yeah, okay.
I guess is a simpler way to
that's
ask.
a great question. And I'll say that the crave of validation is a dangerous distraction. I think at some point, I think if you're craving validation, you're a young trainer and you want to go around and you want to build relationships with other trainers so you can get help from them. Be careful that you're not just craving validation. That you just want that you want them to tell you, hey man, you're doing a great job. That is a dangerous distraction. That is wasted time. I think if you have a genuine question and you want a genuine answer, you can ask any one of them. Almost everybody will help you. But what I do now is I've made this mistake. I've thought about this a lot lately, how to continue to improve in the guys that are doing a little bit better than me at certain shows. I used to go watch them a lot, and then I would go home and try what they were doing. That's a mistake. I think that's a big mistake. I've learned that the hard way several times. I think that what you should do is understand that you're a product of your environment. So if I want to be, somebody's doing way better than me, I want to be around them a lot, and I want to watch them. And I want to naturally let it influence me. And I want to go do what I do. But naturally, you can't help but you see something that works over and over and over again. You can't help, as long as you're sitting there as an open book, you're not sitting there judging them saying, oh, that's why I don't do that. No, you just watch them. That will naturally influence the way you do things. Don't go try to pull the same way they pulled and do what they do. Do what you do. That's working. But that'd be how I pick up on. I'll go watch Matt Gaines. I'll go watch Austin Shepard, and I'll go watch those guys. And if I try to do what they do, it'll screw me all up. But I will naturally let it influence the way that I work a horse and the way that I show and the way. And I'll certainly study the common denominators and little things, make minor changes if they're easy. But I won't. Like let's say somebody uses tie downs all the time and it's working. I'll watch them. I'll watch them real close. I won't go home and put tie downs on my horses because at the time I'm not using them. See what I'm saying? I'm not going to make a major change, but I'll try to allow somebody that's doing better than me to influence me just by being around them.
I guess one thing that is probably an obvious answer, and I mean you said it earlier, and I can't tell you how many times it happens to me week to week that I relearn the same lesson, whether it's at home or on a horse. But how important patience is and how dangerous ambition can be if you're not patient.
I mean, I think that if you're craving something and you know that it's like I wrote it down one time, just a thought that just because you're doing something really well doesn't mean it's the best that can be done. And I love to think about that and know that. I mean, I think I show really well. I think I train a good horse, and I think I'm doing some things really well. Does not mean it's the best I can do. I mean, I hold that because I always want to leave more room to improve than what I already have improved. But like I think it's extremely important to obsess over something. Like if you're wanting to train cow horses, and you should just be using all your time studying it hard. But then go out and do what you do well and just continue to apply yourself in the way that you want to be and keep adding and keep adding. You go make a major change to everything you're doing and you're just going to go backwards. It's not what's natural for you. None of us do it exactly the same.
Do you think that you need to work for the best to become one of the best, or do you think that mental frame provides more value?
I think a lot of the time you need to work for the best to believe that you can be the best. I value the people I worked for. I think it all happened for a reason. I'm grateful for it, but the real truth is you need to be in the environment with the best. There's no doubt about that. And I do think most people need to work for one of the best, whoever they think is the best. That was great advice given to me, and I did it. But I really think, if you want a deeper thought on that is that is, after doing that, is where they give themselves permission to have a bigger vision for themselves. That's where you give yourself the go ahead. Okay, you've earned it. Now you can see yourself being better, But really, it would just be applying yourself every day and obsessing over the education and learning. And I don't, you let everybody talks themselves into, if you don't live in Weatherford and, for cutting, then you can't be one of the best. I had a guy tell me that 10 years ago, and it pissed me off because I was afraid I might think he might be right. Well, Austin Shepard lives in Alabama. And Lloyd Cox, who's won $12 million, lived in Colorado most of his life. That's not a common denominator. So I think a lot of these things we put in our own minds that we have to do before we can give ourselves permission to think that much of ourselves, that's just sort of like a license to believe in yourself. Mm-hmm. So I'm not discouraging anybody from going to work for somebody good. They certainly should if they have the opportunity. But if you don't have the opportunity, that you don't get to use that as an excuse, because I think that if you educate yourself really well and you obsess over it and you try hard and you apply yourself, and there's nothing that can hold you back. And certainly because you can't get a job working for one of the best does not mean you can't be the very best.
So to get a little bit more like honed in to like the idea of someone who is an assistant trainer, being that you went out on your own so long, and maybe I just don't know enough of your background as far as the people you work for and how long you worked for them. Like, how long do you think you need to be a part of a high-level program to really get the worth of it before, like, at 18 or 19, you went out on your own? But then
Eric worked for me for 10 years.
Yeah, like where is the gap in that? Like, is there an answer?
No, I don't think there is. I think it's like I said, I think it's more whether you've given yourself permission enough to believe in yourself. If you do and understand, choose your hard. I think sometimes it's a little bit easier. The more education you have before you got on your own and start your own deal, the easier it's going to be. And that's not going to make it easy, I can tell you that. But I think that I would encourage people to go somewhere and stay as long as they can. Find somebody you get along with pretty good and rock and roll for as long as you can and educate yourself, study. But I think a lot of times people work for something, like you could probably ask Eric, and he'd probably tell you that if he'd have known what he knows now about being an open book and learning and stuff, he probably could have done it faster. Me and him are really good friends. We still are. He worked there for 10 years. That was a little different circumstance. And also, this was to his, this didn't work out great for him, but I was learning so much in those 10 years. That was some of my earliest years. So he got a lot of confusion, mixed in there. But to answer your question, I guess it's, you got to do what you feel compelled to do. But the real reason a lot of times people stay longer than they do, and I think Eric would say that this is why, because he needed to give himself the validation. He was nervous, and he's doing awesome. I mean, he's doing great. So really, I mean, that's probably that probably doesn't answer a question for anybody, except for you got to understand that when you make up your mind, there's no backup plan. There's no plan B. There's no bullshit excuse for yourself if it doesn't work. For me, luckily, I didn't have a choice. I mean, I didn't even have an 8th grade education. I didn't have money. I didn't have anybody to send me $20 if it didn't work. There was no choice whatsoever. I had to be good at it. I'll never forget one day I was in the round pen with Tim Smith. He was chewing my ass, but I was working a horse, and I looked at him. I had tears in my eyes, and I said, "You understand? I don't know how to change my fucking oil. I don't know anything. This is all I've ever put my attention to, and you're telling me I suck at it." And we had this sort of heated conversation in the arena, and he goes, "I never said you weren't good at it. Just trying to tell you how to do it better." And his tone changed, and he realized I was being a little emotional, and he walked away, and we never brought it up again. But I think that that was almost lucky that I didn't have any other choice. I mean, I had made up my mind from the time I was 7, 8 years old that I was going to be a horse trainer. So you have to build that in yourself if you have other options. If it's really what you want, then nothing will hold you back, even if you can't get anybody to hire you. But I do think it's important.
When you start trying to move in the direction of holding ideas in your head, and we've talked about if it's what you truly want, it should be easy. You've also mentioned several times through this conversation that you write things down. Mm-hmm. Could you explain a little bit more about, like, maybe an example of what you're writing down or the intention behind?
When things are, to me, a powerful, I call them life superpowers. In other words, like powerful things that come across powerful to me that are generally influence you in a positive way for your life. I like to write those things down, whether they're a thought that comes to my mind or something I read or hear, because I like to work on that. And I, to be honest, I started that after my son was born, and I thought, if something were ever to happen to me, I wanted to know how I think. I wanted to know what's made me successful. So that's how it started, and then I just continued to do it, and that's really still the biggest reason. But and I like to try to study this stuff so I can help influence people, in a positive way if I'm able or I get the opportunity. Mm-hmm. So that's why I do that.
Well, I've kind of run through all the thoughts that I had wrote down. Is there any message or anything that we've talked about you'd like to go back and explain or put some more thought, or anything that you feel you still need to share?
There's always, like, as we talk, and I have a lot of different thoughts and stuff, and I really appreciate the opportunity to share this stuff. I mean, to me, it's kind of a dream come true to have anybody asking me these questions. And I've done some podcasts, and we've talked about subjects and stuff. I don't think we've ever gone this deep into the idea of really the brainstorm that's going on in my head, as deep as we have it. It's been a lot of fun. Because there's always probably things I'll go back and listen and think that I could have explained things a little bit better or in a more simple way. But I think it's good. I think it's awesome, and to me, I would love to hear this kind of thing from just about anybody that's successful. I'm a student to that. So I really enjoyed it. I think you asked some awesome questions and made me think, and I appreciate it.
I feel like with my theme of wanting to kind of lay a footprint for other just regular cowboys that don't know what options are available to them, or to someday my son, or anyone who's just looking for a spot to start, because it can be so confusing at times. And you just said you'd like to hear other people's thoughts on it. Do you think that just a general theme of these type of questions and ideas are going to cultivate a diverse amount of answers through people, or do you think that an idea can be worn out?
It's so funny. That's a great question. I think some people, you could ask them a lot of these same questions, and for whatever reason, for me, it's been really hard work to develop a strong mindset or a positive mindset and a skill set in my mind that works well for me. So I'm a student of, obsessed with progress, and I'm a student of the game, and the game of being a strong minded person has been something I've studied. I've thought about it a lot. So I usually can give an answer that a lot of people think might have, it wasn't as hard for them to see it going well. So they never really had to consider the process as much as I have had to consider it. So I think you could generalize it, and I would love to hear people's opinions, on their like how did you go about the adversity when, you lost your place, or, like where did you start? Did you consider doing something else, or did you just continue to move forward? And what did you think was going to happen? Those are interesting to dig into people's mindsets. Interesting questions, but yeah, I'm not really sure on that. But I would love to hear the answers from most everybody.
For people that don't understand, I reached out to you after listening to a podcast over Facebook. Didn't even know if it was the right page when I first sent it out. And I just am so grateful that you responded at all, let alone kept me in mind. You travel halfway across the country for a show. You're busy. You're staying focused. You saw some value in what I'm trying to do and had no clue who I was. And I think that speaks volumes about your character. And I'm just so grateful that you came and gave me the amount of time you have, because I don't know how long we've been going, but it's been a while.
It's been a while, but listen, I just think I can't help but notice when somebody's taking action. You know what I mean? And when you told me I'm trying to start a podcast, and you were, bold enough to holler at me and continue to stay in touch, because I'm terrible about getting back with people. And I just felt bad that it took me so long, and that I didn't want you to think I was trying to blow you off at all, but we're busy. But hey, this is a great opportunity for me. I don't know what the outcome is, but to me, like I said earlier, every action has a natural reaction, and so a lot of times something like this ends up being a real big thing.
Yes, sir.
Whether it's not or not, it's good for you, it's good for me, most likely for both of us.
Yeah.
Whether the two of us just learn some things while we sit here and have this conversation, or it helps somebody out there that's going to listen to it, it doesn't matter to me. So.
Well, I mean, it's a direct example, because what you just explained is what happened with your conversation with Mike Roberts, because I listened to that. It gave me some inspiration to get off my ass and start it, because it's something I've thought about before, and it's led me to meet some great people, including yourself. And I know that I'm going to gain so much knowledge and experience and relationships out of this, and I mean, I think it's just a prime example. And so that's all I had
That's awesome,
have for
man.
now,
Thank
and
you.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.